Hello, legends. Z Elder here. I wanted to give you guys an update. I just got a message from one of our legends named Bartek. I did that video last night with those jerseys. In fact, I'm taking one with me on a ride today. If you guys remember, it was the Peugeot jersey and then this Raphael Geminiani jersey. But I misspoke and I said the size was large. I wear extra large in Santini and Castelli, and that was a mistake. I wear large in some UK manufacturers and Rafa and domestic US cycling gear. So the European sizes I go up. But what I just wanted to add is that the size guide on Prendas is true to size, so you go with that. I went ahead and updated the description in that video, just putting that correction in there. I just wanted to point that out. Now, my reason for making this video is Lupi, another one of our legends, Lupi 007. I think that is one of the coolest names we have on here. Lupi 007 had sent me a message a while back, and he was asking about what I thought about titanium bikes and, titanium bikes, carbon bikes, and so forth, because one of his friends had a light speed that he was trying to sell. And I think it seemed like, I'm assuming anyway, this mic just dropped. Hold on. I'm assuming that Lupi probably had eyes on it. Maybe he was thinking about possibly buying it. So he had sent a message. I went ahead and replied to it. But I always go back and I review my messages to see if I missed anything as far as was there a message that I did not get that may have been trapped in junk mail, whatever. So I always review stuff. So when I went back, it just dawned on me, a video would be cool to explain what I think about all these materials. And it's important because if you're planning on buying a titanium bike, for example, let's say this is a steel bike right here. If you buy a bike off the shelf, let's say a light speed or whatever, the person building that, they never met you, okay? So this is the reason I went the custom route, because it doesn't cost that much more, okay? But what I got out of it was I learned over the years and from working with that builder, Jim Kish, Kish Manufacturing is his site. What he explained to me was they build the bikes that they put on the shelf for the worst case scenario, meaning for a 250-pound rider, they might put a titanium bike together and use the strongest tubes everywhere, okay? This bike here and even that bike, the tubes are different because I sent the guy my specifications, my length, all my measurements. I sent him what bike I was riding before, what problems I had with the bike I was riding before, what changes I thought I needed him to make. They don't ask that of everybody, but I'm a fitter, so I kind of knew what I wanted. And from talking to them on the phone, they were very happy to work with me because they said that their turnaround time was a lot easier on the CAD drawings because I knew what I wanted. They didn't have to do many iterations. They did one draft and I approved it because I explained to them what I needed and why. And so it made sense to them. But the average person, all they need is really are your measurements and just get a measurement of your bike that you have. They can kind of derive stuff from there. So what they suggested was based on my style of riding, how much I like to spin, how much I like to sprint. They made my bottom bracket really stiff, okay? And because I sit low and back, they use the lightest tube up here. I'm gonna tap these tubes as I talk and I'm hoping you can get, it's almost like a musical instrument. The sounds are different. This is a steel bike. Every tube here is different. The sizing of the tube is different. So what they did was they put certain tubes together based on my riding style and my weight and just my physique. And I made it clear to them that when I ride, I want to feel the bike move when I pedal. So they strengthened the bottom bracket, made that really stiff. I don't understand what they did with the chain stays and all of that, but the main tubes I was concerned about was I wanted them to know that I'm hard on bikes because I generate a lot of power in the saddle. So I wanted to make sure that this area here where the seat post is was strong. Because prior bikes when I used to race, like Waterford, even a Pinarello, this area used to crack where the tubes met. So I wanted them to make sure that they beefed up the seat area and they beefed up the bottom bracket. So that's why they put the most material. As far as here, he said, since I sit back and low and I relax my upper body, the top tube, and it's not just for me, I think the top tube does not take a whole lot of stresses anyway. I think it's the seat tube. So they have different materials. But if you buy a bike off the shelf, they're gonna make it for the strongest possible scenario. They're gonna put heavy tubes in most places because they don't want a lot of warranty work because they don't know who's gonna be buying it. Might be a heavy guy, who's buying it. They want to make sure the tubes don't give. And so things come back for work. So what ends up happening is I owned a bike made by Independent Fabrication, an IF bike, which was supposedly custom. And I basically had the guy on the phone and I tapped the tubes. And I told him that my reason for wanting to replace it, besides the fact that the head tube was too long, which I couldn't get low enough, I needed a custom stem to get really low, was the fact that the bike felt dead, And so once I tapped the tubes for him over the phone, that's when he started to explain everything to me. And I'm gonna get you to listen to my titanium bike. Let me take the steel bike here that I just tapped off of that. I'll do it once more. Different sounds. The heaviest tube is under my seat here. Let me move that. And I'm gonna bring the Thai bike over here because I don't want this stand to interfere with the resonance. Okay, now this is a titanium bike that was built for me that I replaced another titanium bike with. And the one I replaced it with, like I said, was the Independent Fabrication bike. That one had no painting on it. This paint job my wife picked and I really like it. Orange is my favorite color, but I like the fact that it only hits the low maintenance areas of the bike and all the work areas are Thai. So I didn't have to do anything. It's really, really cool. But I just wanted some color on the bike. I was tired of that titanium color, the brush tie look. So anyway, move the stand like this. I want you to listen to the tubes. They're all different. He used different sizes. He used the biggest tubing down here. I'm sure he had a reason. This is a little less bigger than this. This is really narrow. He said these are the strongest tubes. So all the seat tubes, even on that steel bike, was the same dimension as this. So the seat tube is always the strongest. When I got this bike and I built it up, my first ride, it was night and day between the Independent Fabrication bike that I had and which I had been a custom bike built in 2002 through another shop. This was before I fully got into bike fit, and that's one of the reasons I got into bike fit. It was night and day. This thing, it was like it was communicating to you. Okay, this is the bike I launched that attack in the video. This bike is very lively. Okay. This one has the longest stem. He shortened this top tube a little bit. I put a longer stem because I needed the same point in space. But I wanted to use this video to let you guys know that if you're considering or you're in the market for a frame, consider a custom frame by a local builder. Because you may pay maybe a few $100s more, because sometimes it's very close. I just bought the frame set and I put my own components on it because I build up on my bikes. But you could go to a shop if you wanted to. It costs about $150 to build up a bike, thereabouts. So you could even source your own stuff if you're comfortable enough with a shop, and they'll build it for you. Just make sure if you're gonna go that route that the builder chases the threads. In other words, don't let them leave any paint in there. I had headaches with the steel bikes. I just went to a local shop. They cleaned out, they chased the threads. It was like $30 to do that, but it was a hassle. This guy was very much into detail, Jim Kish. And this bike came, it was like fitting a puzzle together. It just went together flawlessly, okay? I wanted to do the video because I wanted you guys to understand that when you buy a bike off the shelf, it's not built for you. It's built for the general, what they look for, I guess the median. If they think that most people are, say, 190 pounds or most people are 220 pounds, then they say, well, it's possible that a 250 pound guy would buy this big bike, this 58 or this 57. So they want to go ahead and they make all the tubes strong so they don't get a lot of warranty work. But when you go with a custom builder, you send them your weight, your body type. The guy had me send pictures of myself so he could see whether I'm athletic or, bulky or whatever. They look at all of that. And they did everything in the metric system, which I thought was really cool. And so all the builders work to the millimeter. They don't do inches, which makes sense. It's a finite form of measurement. But you get a bike that was built for your style of riding, for your build, so that you're not trying to cover the 250 pound guy who might ride this bike, and you end up with these dense tubes that just don't jump around and come alive when you ride. And so that's why I wanted to make this video. So if you're in the market and thinking about getting a bike, you might be able to get a bike on the shelf that's built for somebody like you, but you got to really ride it. I'm not saying you have to go custom. Ride the bike, ride it, see how it feels before you spend your hard-earned dollars. Because they do have bikes off the shelf that will have that feel, but you'll never know until you get on it and ride it. A lot of the big shops will have bikes for people to test ride. So you don't want to just buy a bike sight unseen unless you've ridden the same bike, whether it's carbon, whatever, because not all carbon bikes behave the same. It comes to the same engineering again I'm talking about, how they put everything together, so the characteristics of the bike, like if you a Pinarello F8 or the new F10 will behave differently than another carbon bike by another manufacturer. I'm sure they get feedback from their pro riders. So, so probably with the Specialized and all of that, but you still want to ride it to see if you like the ride. Don't just get it because you saw it in the ad or this team is using it. Test ride it. A lot of shops may not have models for you to test ride, and that's the hang up. But to just buy a bike without having ridden it or knowing what the characteristics are, it's too much of a risk because it's a major component. It's not like a shoe that you can just send back. So I wanted to make this video so you guys would think about that. For those of you who are not familiar, you don't need to be an engineer to talk to somebody in the shop and say, look, I want to make sure this bike rides well. It's kind of like going to buy a car. You want to see how the car handles. Same thing. You don't need to be any particular engineer. So just keep that in mind when you're buying bikes. If they can't let you ride it, then yeah, that should raise a question. I mean, sometimes they don't have a model that you can ride. You can't blame the little shops. A lot of shops don't have the resources to have a lot of bikes to let you ride one. But the bigger shops do. So you don't have to go around if you're planning on buying locally. Ride the bike, see how it feels. And if you like the feel, then buy it. Okay? So I just wanted to do that. I know I did a video about how my bikes fit me a long time ago. But when Loopy 007 asked that question about what I thought about titanium bikes, that was the answer I gave him. I said, well, your friend's selling this bike. Maybe he's not selling it necessarily because he doesn't like titanium. Maybe he doesn't like the feel. It was a Lightspeed. And Lightspeed makes a lot of bikes that they just send out and they're in the shops in stock, And this applies to any bike you want to buy. You need to have at least, either you've ridden a friend's bike that is exactly like that made you want to buy it, then yeah, you've ridden it. But to just buy a bike without having ridden it is too risky. I did not just pick these builders out of a hat. I did a lot of research for up to 6 months before I chose a builder. And I chose these guys because other cyclists that had bikes built for them were just, I could see the excitement in their reviews. I contacted these cyclists over the internet to find out why they liked the bikes that these guys built. And in this guy's case, Jim Kish, the guy I communicated with, that one of his customers that had the bike, said that all he did was he told the guy, I want a bike I can ride up a mountain, up a hill, down a mountain, in the wet, take corners, basically a road bike. And he said what he liked was, the guy said, those are the bikes I build. That's all I build. My bikes are built to be ridden, almost like BMWs, built to be driven, I guess. So-called ultimate driving machine, right? But I just liked it. And so when I contacted him to find out, I sent him an email to find out exactly why he decided to go with this guy. I said, yeah, your review is revealing. I said, but it had to be something more. And he said, well, the fact was that the guy was close to where he lived, so they drove there. And this guy spent almost half his day. They were just talking about, what kind of riding you do. He was in no hurry to start even drawing anything. He wanted to get to know that guy. And so when I contacted the guy, man, he wanted pictures and all. He was asking for stuff I wasn't even sure where he was headed. He wanted pictures, full body pictures, side, do your biceps like this, all that kind of stuff. Riding position, I had to get on my old bike on the trainer, riding position pictures. And then I told him, well, I already have my numbers. He said, oh yeah, send your numbers. So he wanted to know how far behind the bottom bracket I sat, because I told him I needed a slack angle and all of that. So he confirmed everything. Then we talked over the phone multiple times. Got to be like my friend was building me a bike. And the whole process just set me at ease. So when the bike came, I was not surprised at all, because we had talked so much. So that was my experience with this guy. And not all of them do that. The bigger ones, they probably won't have the time. But this guy is a cyclist that builds bikes, called Kish Manufacturing. But anyway, I'm going to stop there. I just wanted to, for those of you who might be interested in that, I'm going to summarize. You walk into a shop. If they don't let you test ride the bike, then that doesn't make sense. It's like going in to buy a car. At least you get a test drive. You should be able to test ride the bike. Don't just buy it sight unseen unless you've already tested one of your buddy's bikes that's exactly like that, and then you ordered it and it came through. That's cool. But if you're walking in, I don't care if it's your first bike. It doesn't need to be very expensive for you to say, I want to ride it. Okay? You should at least be able to get on the pedals in the parking lot, step on it and see if it feels like a dog or whether it jumps under you or something like that. Because and before you even get to that point, research online, read the reviews. There are a lot of magazine places like road.cc and so forth that do reviews. They ride these bikes. Sometimes they keep them on long-term stuff. So if you're thinking about getting a bike, start planning, start researching. You can save the money and everything, but get to know that bike that you're trying to get intimately before you invest the money, so that you're not surprised. Get to know everything about it, And so I just want to summarize. Don't buy a bike without knowing what you're getting, because it's too much of an investment, because then you're stuck with it. And resale values, they go down because the bike is your bike. It fits you. It may not necessarily fit anybody else. And there are bikes galore on eBay. Everybody's trying to unload. So it's just a crapshoot if you do that. So I'm going to stop there, and I hope this is going to help somebody avoid some headaches regarding, selecting your next frame or your next complete bike. So keep riding and don't let anything stop you.